The order came in at 12:11 a.m., and that's what I remember first. Not the name, not the address, the time. Because I don't usually take ridge runs after midnight, especially not cash orders. But it was slow, and the ticket printed clean, large pepperoni, 2-liter cola, cash on delivery. Briar Ridge sits outside Logan, past the old coal tipple, where the conveyor's been rusting since '98. You take Route 17 until the road narrows and the guardrails disappear. Then it's just a 2-lane strip climbing into trees. Houses thin out. Porch lights get spaced wider. By the time you reach the last mailbox cluster, you can see more dark than light. There's something drivers say around here, not written anywhere. Just something you hear if you stick around long enough. Don't drive past the last lit porch. That night, the last lit porch was a white farmhouse with a satellite dish hanging crooked. After that, the road bent left and went black. My GPS lost signal right as I passed it. Not uncommon in the hollers. What was strange was the receipt on my passenger seat. The timestamp, 12:11, blinked, then shifted to 12:12. I thought maybe I'd read it wrong, but when I glanced again, it blinked to 12:13, like it hadn't settled yet. The address was a trailer at the dead end. I knew the spot. Gravel turnaround. No outlet. No street light. Just trees pressing in tight on both sides like they're listening. When I pulled up, the trailer was dark. Not dim. Not someone forgot the porch bulb. Completely dark. But the door was cracked open maybe 3 inches. I cut the engine, and everything went quiet, except for ticking metal cooling under the hood. The app still showed, customer waiting. I stepped out with a pizza bag in one hand and knocked with the other. The door moved inward a little from the knock, like it wasn't latched. I didn't push it. I just stood there and said the name on the receipt. No answer. What I noticed next was the smell. Not rot, nothing dramatic, just stale air, like a house that's been closed up too long. No television glow, no fan hum. No footsteps shifting inside. My phone buzzed. No new notification. Just the same order screen. Still active. Still waiting. I backed up off that porch slower than I walked up. I told myself maybe someone stepped out back. Maybe they were grabbing cash from a car. But there were no tire tracks fresh in the gravel. No second vehicle. When I got back in my car, I looked at the receipt again. 12:17 a.m. It had jumped ahead. I drove back down Briar Ridge without delivering it, past the white farmhouse. The porch light was still on. I almost stopped to ask if they knew the folks at the end, but something about the way their curtains were pulled tight kept me moving. The next morning, I mentioned it to Dale, who's delivered longer than I have. He didn't laugh, didn't roll his eyes. He just said, "That trailer? Man died there 3 days ago. Heart, they hauled them out Tuesday." I thought he was messing with me until he told me the man's name. Same as the receipt. I checked the local obituaries on my break. There it was. Service pending. Survived by a sister in Charleston. That should have been the end of it. Glitch in the system. Old account. Maybe someone placed it as a mistake. But that night, at exactly 12:17 a.m., the printer in the kitchen whirred. Same order. Same name. New timestamp. The manager blamed a backlog error. Said the system sometimes catches up. He voided it manually. I took the slip home anyway, folded it, and set it on my desk. At 12:17 the next night, my phone lit up. The receipt timestamp, sitting untouched on my desk, changed. 12:18. I hadn't opened the app, hadn't logged in, but the printed time had advanced. Faint ink, darkening like it was fresh. I pinned that receipt to the wall above my desk so I wouldn't misplace it. Watched it for 3 nights straight. Every night at 12:17, it updated. No notification sound. No vibration. Just the time moving forward. I haven't driven Briar Ridge since. I trade those runs if they come in. Most of the new hires don't question it. They just take the route and go. Last I heard, someone else took a late-night cash order up there last week. They said the porch light at the farmhouse was off. And the next order didn't come from Briar Ridge. It came from just across the county line. The first time it happened, I blamed the mountains. The second time, I blamed my phone. By the third time, I stopped blaming anything. I run overnight pharmacy deliveries out of Chapmanville. Blood pressure meds, insulin refills, the quiet stuff people need before morning. Most of my route stays on paved roads with decent signal. But there's one address that sits right on the line between Logan and Boone County, where the towers don't seem to agree who should cover it. You cross a narrow bridge over Island Creek, past a leaning green sign that says County Line, and service usually flickers. That's normal. What wasn't normal was the app. Every time I crossed that line with a delivery for the same name, Earl T. Maynard, my bars dropped to 0, but the screen stayed active. Not frozen, not buffering. It updated in real time. Customer waiting. The first night, I pulled over before the gravel drive. His mailbox was stuffed so full, the metal door wouldn't close. Sympathy cards, mostly. I could see the pastel envelopes from the road. I remember thinking someone should bring those in. The house sat back behind a sagging split-rail fence. Single story, aluminum siding, one porch light burned out. The place looked settled in the way homes do when someone lives alone. One chair on the porch, an empty bird feeder swaying slow. I knocked. No answer. My phone buzzed. Still no signal. But the app updated. Please knock louder. I checked my bars again. Nothing. I held the phone up toward the sky like that might help. Dead. A truck passed behind me on the road, headlights sweeping across the yard. The beam caught the front window just right, and I saw dust in the air. Thick. Undisturbed. There was no one moving inside. I left the package on the porch that night because it was prepaid. Took a photo for confirmation. The photo uploaded instantly. That part bothered me most. When I got back to town, I mentioned it to a deputy who stops by the pharmacy for coffee. I asked if he knew the Maynard place. He didn't smile. Earl passed in January, he said. Winter storm. They found him after 3 days. January was 4 months ago. I checked the order history when I got home. The account was active. Payment method valid. Delivery instructions updated last week. Bridge loses signal. Keep driving. The next time it came through, same medication, same address. I told my supervisor I didn't like it. She shrugged. Said the system doesn't flag accounts unless family reports them. So I drove it again. Crossed the bridge. Lost signal. Customer waiting. I didn't even get out that time. I just watched the front window from my car. Nothing moved. No curtain shift. No light flicker. Then the app added a line beneath the status. Running late tonight. I looked at the timestamp. It was current. Down to the minute. There's something folks say around here when the fog settles heavy over the creek. If the phone dies but the road keeps talking, you turn around. I turned around. Back at the pharmacy, I printed the delivery log for that account. Paper doesn't lie the way screens do. The last confirmed in-person signature was dated the week before his obituary. After that, every confirmation showed as contactless. All completed. I asked the deputy again the next day. He told me the family lives in Charleston and hasn't been back to the house. Utilities were cut in February. That house shouldn't have power, but the app still showed him waiting. Last week, the system rerouted me to a different address, just beyond the county line. And the moment I crossed it, my signal dropped again. The tip was generous. That's what pulled me in. $17.40 on a prepaid barbecue order headed out past Miller's Fork. That stretch of road runs narrow and flat along the water before climbing into low ridges dotted with older houses. Paint peeling, porches sagging, yards kept neat out of habit more than pride. It was a Thursday, slow night, just after 11. The name on the order was Harold Gentry. I recognized it because we delivered there before. Always prepaid, always tipped well. Never answered the door. The delivery instructions read, "Leave on bench, take from jar, thank you kindly." I remember thinking it was polite. You turn off Route 10 and follow Miller's Fork Road until the pavement turns to chip seal. The Gentry house sits alone, white siding gone dull with age. roof patched in 3 places. There's a single porch light that casts more shadow than glow. The bench was there, just like the instructions said, and so was the jar. Clear mason jar with black marker on masking tape. Driver. Inside was exact change, $17.40. 2 tens folded neat, coins counted down to the dime. I hadn't even set the food down yet. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. Crickets, water moving slow in the fork. No television hum, no footsteps inside. I knocked once out of habit. Nothing. The windows were dark. Not drawn, just empty. You can tell when a house is occupied by the way the air moves behind glass. This place felt sealed. This is saying some of the older drivers repeat when we're closing up shop. If they won't open the door, they don't expect to. I left the bag on the bench and took the cash from the jar. The app required a photo. When I snapped it, my flash lit up the porch hard for half a second. In that flash, I noticed something tucked under the bench leg. A folded paper. I crouched down and pulled it free. It was a funeral program. Cream-colored cardstock. In loving memory of Harold Gentry. Service held 2 Sundays ago at Miller's Fork Baptist. Same name as the order. Same address. I stood up slow, like someone might be watching from inside. But the windows didn't change. The porch light hummed faint, steady. My phone buzzed. Order completed. 5-star rating. I hadn't even walked back to my car yet. The rating came in before I turned the ignition. On the drive back, I passed a neighbor walking a dog near the fork. Older man, ball cap pulled low. I rolled down my window and asked if Mr. Gentry still lived up the road. He stopped walking. Harold? He said. They buried him. Quiet fella. Didn't have much family. I asked about anyone staying at the house. He shook his head once. Then he said something I didn't understand at the time. Light's been on every night since, though. The next evening, another order came through. Same item, same amount, same instructions. I told my manager about the funeral program. He said maybe a relative was cleaning out the place, so I drove it again. Same porch light, same jar, same exact change. But this time, the coins were warm. Not hot. Just not cold like they'd been sitting outside. I didn't knock. I left the bag, took the money, and didn't look at the windows. Before I pulled away, I checked the app. 5 stars again. The account has ordered 3 more times since then. Always late. Always exact change waiting. I haven't gone back. Last week, someone else took the run. He said the jar was empty. And the porch light was finally off. This one wasn't a holler. That's what made it worse. I was subcontracting for Amazon that week, running late packages out of the Beckley distribution hub. Clean neighborhoods. Fresh asphalt. Lawns trimmed in straight lines. The kind of place where porch lights are automatic and dogs bark behind fences with HOA rules posted on the mailbox. It felt safe. The address was in a cul-de-sac off Harper Road. 2-story brick homes, identical shutters, security cameras mounted above garages. My route had been uneventful all night. Scan, drop, photo, move on. The name on the label was Margaret Halley. I pulled into the driveway at 9:42 p.m. porch light already on. That soft yellow glow that makes everything look warmer than it is. No cars in the driveway. No decorations. Just a wreath on the door that looked like it hadn't been touched since spring. I grabbed the small box and walked it up. The house felt occupied in the way empty houses don't. There was a lamp on inside near the front window. I could see the corner of a couch. A framed photo on the wall. Normal life details. I set the package down and raised my phone for the confirmation photo. Right as the camera adjusted, I noticed someone standing just inside the window, not pressed against the glass, just there, slightly behind the curtain, a woman's shape. Still, I lowered the phone and looked with my eyes instead of the screen. Nothing. Just the lamp and the couch. I told myself it was a reflection. Maybe me, maybe the angle. I raised the phone again and snapped the picture quickly. The flash hit the glass. and for a split second, I saw her again. Older woman. Short hair. Pale blouse. Then it was gone. I walked back to the van slower than usual, sat in the driver's seat and checked the photo before marking it complete. The figure was visible in the image. Not clear enough for detail, but enough to show someone standing inside the room. I considered knocking, but the app didn't require a signature. Contactless delivery. There's a saying one of the older warehouse guys told me when I started night shifts. Just because the lights are on doesn't mean someone's home. I marked it delivered and drove off. About 20 minutes later, customer support pinged my route. They asked if I had handed the package directly to the recipient. I said no. Left it at the door. They paused before replying. The account holder passed away 2 weeks ago. The message read, "We're investigating fraudulent use." I pulled over at the next red light and opened the photo again. The woman was clearer now. Not because the image changed. Because I was looking harder. She wasn't facing the door. She was facing me. Hands down at her sides. No expression. I zoomed in. The timestamp on the photo read 9:42 p.m., just like it should. Behind her, the lamp glowed warm. The house looked lived in. The next morning, I checked local obituaries out of habit now. Margaret Haley, 78, survived by 2 sons out of state. Service held 10 days earlier. The address matched. Later that week, I passed through that neighborhood again. Different route. Different packages. I slowed near the cul-de-sac. The Haley house was dark. For sale sign in the yard. Curtains removed. No lamp in the window. Empty. But when I checked my phone, that delivery photo was gone from my gallery. Deleted automatically, like old confirmations usually are. All except one. The zoomed-in version. And in that one, she wasn't standing near the window anymore. She was closer. Just enough that her reflection should have shown in the glass. It didn't. By the time I left Beckley and headed back toward the hollers, I realized something else. That was the first order that didn't require cash. And the next one that came in after midnight went back to a printed receipt. It should have been a glitch. That's what I kept telling myself. Printers freeze. Apps misfire. Rural internet does strange things after midnight. But paper doesn't usually update itself. I pinned the Briar Ridge receipt above my desk with a red thumbtack. Nothing dramatic, just a way to keep track of it. The timestamp at the top read 12:17 a.m. That was the time I first noticed it changing. The next night, I sat in the dark with my desk lamp off and waited. At exactly 12:17, the ink shifted, not visibly rewriting itself like something out of a movie. Just darkening. The printed time rolled forward 1 minute. 12:18. The numbers looked slightly bolder, as if the printer had just finished warming up. I didn't touch it. I didn't log into the delivery app. The paper moved on its own. There's a line old drivers use when the system starts acting strange. If the ticket won't close, neither will the road. I stopped taking late cash orders after that. Swapped shifts when I could. But the store printer didn't care about my schedule. 3 nights later, during the dinner rush, the machine whirred without warning. New order. Same name as Briar Ridge. Different address. This one sat just across the Boone County line. I stared at the slip as it printed. The timestamp read 12:17 a.m., even though it was only 9:46. Manager said the internal clock sometimes lagged. He crumpled the first copy and reprinted it. The second copy said 9:46 like it should, but I pocketed the first one. At home, I pinned it next to the original. 2 receipts, same name, 2 different ridge roads, both showing 12:17. That night, both times updated, 12:18. In sync, the pattern started to settle in after that. Any order connected to that name, no matter the address, shifted to that time once midnight passed. The system didn't show it. Only the paper did. I asked Dale if he'd ever seen anything like it. He didn't hesitate. "County line's thin up there," he said. "Signal gets confused. So do other things." I didn't press him. A week later, a new hire named Travis took a late run out past the Boone line. Cash order. Same name. He didn't know the history. He came back pale. Said the house at the end of the gravel road had a porch light on but no power lines feeding it. Said the door was cracked open 3 inches, just like Briar Ridge. He left the pizza.